Hey everyone, it's Mark. Welcome back to part 1 million or something. So I left off the last video, I think about a year ago, and I haven't done a whole lot since then. I've been out here a few times just taking measurements, moving some things around, and I actually made some progress today getting ready to start welding up the transmission cross member slash brake booster holder slash exhaust hole slash 4-link mount slash. I'm going to be taking off a little bit of time from work here in the near future to spend a few days out here, so I just wanted to be out here, get prepared, get a shopping list so that I'm not wasting one of my days off just driving around getting parts. This bar right here is just clamped underneath the frame so I can establish the height of the transmission mount and the center line. It is just about 1 1/8 inches, 1.25 inches below the transmission mount with the proper angle. So that means if I get a piece of square tubing and just run it right across the bottom that's 1 inch, it will be exactly the right height, so that's good. I am going to need a section to unbolt, obviously future down the road. If anybody needs to pull the transmission, they'll want to be able to remove a section of that bar, otherwise it's stuck in there forever. So if you remember from the last video, the other hurdle is I have to also go from that master cylinder to that master cylinder. What's tricky about that is this master cylinder is also the pivot for the pedal. And this pedal has to be exactly right because it goes through a hole in the floor. And then this arc right here is exactly the arc for that grommet in the floor. So I've decided to keep this and keep this. So I'm going to press that pin out, and I'm also going to have to then incorporate a mount for this, and somewhere the exhaust has to come through here. I think the exhaust probably came through here originally. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously this is a different transmission, so there may have been more clearance with the Power Glide, but there should be more than enough room, especially once the master cylinder is gone and it's just a pivot. The other tricky thing, this master cylinder, quite a bit taller than the frame, but there is a hump in the floor right here, like just in the right spot for this. That's gonna put the filler under the seat, which means I'm gonna want to integrate probably a remote filler, because I'm not gonna wanna pull the seat out of the car to add brake fluid. It's annoying enough that originally you would fill it there, so you'd have to pull the carpet back, take out a rubber plug, and then take that nut off and then fill it. That was annoying enough. I'd rather not deal with that. So I'd rather have a remote filler and just hide it somewhere in the trunk or under the hood or something so that it doesn't detract from the original appearance, but also isn't annoying. Yeah, so like I said, this is a little bit taller than the frame. Luckily, there's a bump in the seat. So when I have the transmission mount come across, it's probably going to have 2 bars, and then it's going to have to kind of bump up around this. So I'm going to have a plate, like 1/4 inch plate steel, drilled out with that center, bolted to it, and then also probably a hole right here for the exhaust to come through. I'm just gonna have single exhaust back here. I've decided when I get to the exhaust in the back, I can always put in a 1 inlet, 2 outlet muffler, run duals out the back and cheat, because obviously I'm not going for horsepower here. So then there's going to have to be, it's gonna have to be sort of like the K member used to be. I mean, that's a piece of it, but I'm gonna have the bars going this way, and then they're also gonna come up that way and that way for structural stability. So then I'm also gonna have to have a pretty sharp angle cut out for that exhaust to come through, so that ideally it'll be a perfectly straight shot right through the whole thing for the exhaust. And then the muffler shop, whenever they get back here, they'll pretty much have free reign to go wherever they want. That's the idea. Now back here, I need to mount these, but as you can see, there's a pretty big distance between that and these. So I'm just gonna do this one piece at a time. I'm not gonna try to like mock up this big elaborate thing, start making it, and then get too far ahead of myself and forget something. So I'm just gonna get this front section done and then focus on this. Another reason I'm not jumping into this, after welding on all these mounts, I sort of introduced a bit of a bend. Let me see if I can get a good angle on this. Yeah, I think you can kind of get the idea here. But this entire axle housing is like curving like a banana this way now. Not a big deal, that happens. Places that do modifications like this, they know that's gonna happen. They weld it up, then they put it on a press and straighten it. I do have a press that's good enough to do this, but it's not wide enough to support it. So I'm gonna have to get a big long piece of box steel or I-beam or something to support it so I can press it back into shape. But until then, all these mounts are going to be in the wrong spot. There is some adjustment, but I'd like to get as close as I can so that all these rod ends are about halfway so I can come in or out, you know, 1/2 inch So that's going to be it for this clip. Obviously that wasn't the whole video. It's going to cut away in a second here to weeks in the future. Today is August 1st. Who knows when I'm going to get back out here. It'll be at least a couple of weeks. So we'll see you in the next clip. Go into the future. Hey everyone, what's up? It's been 1 week since that last clip you just saw. I haven't really done much, but I do want to turn you around and show you what I have done and what the plan is for the day. All right, so I was out here yesterday just to drop off some steel that I had bought, and I just got this one piece, which is kind of fitted. It's not attached yet, because that is going to be the piece that everything else comes off of. So I spent a lot of time trying to get these angles just right, everything just spaced perfectly. This bar is flush with the bottom of the frame, and I'm trying to get it as perfectly perpendicular to the center line of the car as possible. The game plan for today, weld that in place. I'm gonna start trying to get those two pieces that make the K of the K member. Gonna get them cut and hopefully tacked into place, and at least start getting some measurements where the brake pedal is gonna go. So let me show you my plans here. So here's the factory master cylinder and brake pedal assembly. Now, I had said that I was just going to remove it from here and just reuse this, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized there's not really any point to that. We've got this offset that moves everything off to the left, which I assume is helpful when you have a clutch that also needs to fit in here, but I don't. So it would actually be better if that were straight. Then I could move the whole pivot point to the left a little and free up a little more space where the exhaust pipe needs to come through. So I took some measurements, and since I don't need that to bend, and I also don't need this to bend, that leaves me with just a piece of flat bar, 1 3/8 thick, and about 12 inches long. And I can just order one of those for 10 bucks and have it, and it's exactly the right size and everything, and I start from scratch. And that also gives me the bonus effect that once I'm finished with this project, I can sell this master cylinder on eBay to someone who needs one, because these Power Glide ones are pretty hard to find. I don't think they make replacements. The best you can do is to get a standard transmission one with an adapter, so somebody would really like to have this. Somebody somewhere. And I won't have a use for it as soon as I get all my, pivot points set up and measured out, and I'm done with it. So that's the plan for that. One more thing I want to mention quickly. I know somebody is going to be looking at this thinking that that's not a good idea to weld that in and then the transmission can't come through. I'm aware of that. Once everything's welded in place, it's not going to move. Then I will cut out that section there and come up with a way to have a bolt-in mount for the transmission. I'm just not going to do it now. It's easier to line up point A to point B than to line up point A, B, C, D. So I'm going to put you on time lapse on the tripod. I'm going to tack weld that in, start making measurements for the K pieces, and see how far I get. Okay, in that last time lapse, you probably saw me struggling to figure out how to get this brake pedal position figured out. And I kind of came up with a good plan. I thought I'd stop and share this with anybody else who's dealing with this. So I took the pedal off the master cylinder. If you're wondering how to remove it, you take this out, and then inside there is a spring. And then behind that is this piece, which rides in a groove. I had a piece of round tubing that was almost exactly the right size for that bore. I just had to sand it down a little bit with a flap wheel. If I had a lathe here, it would be great, but I don't. So I did it with a flap wheel, turned it, set the master cylinder and the bolts, stuck that through the hole. Now I'm going to tack weld that on there, move the master cylinder out of the way, and then I should be basically done needing the master cylinder at all, because now I know that the pivot point is going to be right there. All right, I'm calling it a day. I will not be back out for 1 week when I start my week off from work, or I hope to focus on this for at least a few of those days. In the meantime, I'm going to order a few little parts, odds and ends, things to get the brake pedal going. That's it for today. We'll see you in the next one. Hey everybody, welcome back. You've probably noticed that I'm in my own shop and not at my dad's shop where the car is. This video just took kind of a weird, unexpected turn and is going to end a little bit abruptly and hopefully continue soon. I think the last clip I came to you from last Saturday. Sunday, I got ready to order some parts for the car, started putting together an order from McMaster so that I would have all that stuff. I could go to the steel place, pick up some more supplies, and then starting Saturday, I would have 9 days off so that I could work on the car. But plans changed. Monday, around noon, a serious storm blew through Iowa. I mean, kind of all the way through the Midwest, but it really hit eastern Iowa really hard. I don't know if anybody saw it on the news or not. It didn't make a whole lot of national news, I think just because, I don't know, people kind of tend to forget about places in the middle of the country. We're not on the coasts, but it was bad. We had 100-mile-an-hour plus winds. Cedar Rapids, which is about a half hour north of here, got it even worse than us, but we got it plenty bad here in Iowa City, and I lost power at that point. That was Monday afternoon, and we didn't get it restored until Wednesday after I'd gone to bed. So I had no power, I had no internet. Neighbor house behind us, crushed by a tree. Neighbor house to the left of us, crushed by a tree. My mom's house had a tree fall and missed the house, but blocked the driveway. We just had a ton of branches down, and we're still cleaning up after all that. So yeah, it was kind of a rough week. Working on the car was the farthest thing from my mind. Fortunately, where I work had generators, so I was still able to just kind of go to work, charge my phone there, put in my hours and access Wi-Fi and things. So yeah, it was a rough week. I had to get kind of creative. I rigged up a battery-powered refrigerator to put some of our food in, so that gave us like half of a day of extra power for just that. What else? Oh yeah, I sold my HHR that I've owned for 12 years. I just sold that a few weeks ago. I'm looking for my new car. I know what I want, I just haven't found one yet. So in the meantime, I'm driving my dad's Nissan Leaf, which had 2 days of charge left to get me to work. So I didn't have any way to get to work the last 2 days. I had my wife drop me off, had a coworker bring me home. So it's been crazy, but I'm gonna talk a little bit about what I'm gonna order, how I'm gonna proceed. Obviously, I'm not gonna be uploading the video yet because I still don't have internet, but I at least have power so I can turn on my computer. So the game plan. I showed you that drawing before of the brake pedal I had drawn up. I'm gonna do something similar. I've decided to switch to a square shaft. I'm gonna turn the ends down to go into 2 ball bearings. With the square shaft, I can still clock the brake pedal rod and the actuating rod at 90 degrees, just like the factory pedal. However, if the set screws were to back out, the brake pedal, while being able to move left to right, is not just gonna fall to the floor and cause me to crash into something. I'm also gonna pick up some more 1x2 square tubing to finish out that K-member assembly. You see I've got the master cylinder on the far left, then I'm gonna have a hole for the exhaust cutout, and then I'm gonna have 2 plates that I can bolt the transmission mount to, and then the passenger side of the car is basically just blank. So that's where everything's at. So, sorry to cut this one short. By the time you see this, that means I have internet again, and hopefully you'll see a new video within a week of this one. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry this one ended a little abruptly. I appreciate you guys sticking around. We'll see you real soon. Thanks.